What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Trades and Gains. I'm your host, Max Pitts, and I am here to talk about jobs and the market moment that is occurring in front of us. You know, the one where everyone looks at the screen like, wait, is that good or is that Fed good? January payrolls came in at about 130,000 jobs added this morning. What was expected was only around 70K. So the economy basically said, I'm not dead, but also I'm not running marathons. Unemployment came in and ticked in at 4.3%, slightly better than the forecast of 4.4%. But let's not kid ourselves. We're not in the 3.5% glory days anymore. This is not 2021. We're slowing, but trying to look composed economy. And now CPI walks in on Friday like the final boss in a video game because jobs didn't break. So inflation now decides whether we get Goldilocks, we get higher for longer, or we get uh-oh. And that's what we're unpacking today. So let's break this down calmly. No Twitter hysteria, no doom memes, just facts. Payrolls came in at 130,000, unemployment at 4.3%. But here's what matters. Revisions show 2024 to 2025 were weaker than originally reported. Job openings, now below the number of unemployed workers. Layoffs, they're starting to pick up. The translation here is this labor market is cooling. It's not necessarily collapsing, but it is cooling. And the Fed, notice, before jobs, traders were pricing cuts earlier. After jobs, only about 20% chance of a cut by April. Even June, it's roughly a coin toss at this point. The market just went, maybe Powell isn't in a rush. Now, the CPI consensus headline is coming in at 0.3% month over month. Year over year is expected at 2.5%, and core is expected at 0.3% to 2.5% year over year. And if that hits, that's the lowest since early 2020s. But if it misses, we're back in inflation refuses to die territory. So let's go ahead and walk through the three scenarios. Scenario 1, we get Goldilocks 2.0. This is the sweet spot. Labor keeps cooling, CPI behaves, and the Fed cuts mid-year. There's no panic, there's no drama. What does that exactly look like? Well, jobs drift towards 80 to 100,000 monthly, unemployment creeps up but stays under 4.6%, and CPI comes in at 0.2 to 0.3% monthly. Core hovers around 2.3 to 2.6%. Basically, inflation cooperates and growth survives. And the market narrative becomes the economy is cooling, just not enough to let inflation cooperate, but not enough to break earnings. And that's powerful. What rallies? Well, quality growth, AI names, mega cap tech, but also cyclicals and small caps catch a bid. Because recession odds stay low, yields drift lower, not crash lower. Just enough to help high multiple stocks breathe. Volatility stays contained, and this is the grind higher, rotate underneath market. It's not 2020 mania, it's mature, measured, almost boring to its own credit, which ironically is bullish. Boring is bullish. Boring equals bullish. Just think about it like that. So, scenario 2, sticky inflation and a grudging Fed. Let's go ahead and ruin everyone's week right here. Imagine CPI prints 0.4%, core ticks higher, services inflation refuses to budge, super core gets sticky, and jobs don't slow fast enough. Now, the market has a problem because the Fed's narrative was we're close. But if inflation won't cooperate, now Powell keeps his foot halfway on the brake. What happens? Well, front end yields will spike. June cut odds basically evaporate. The curve flattens, and long duration assets feel pain. Who gets hit here? High multiple software, speculative growth, crypto adjacent names, and long dated bonds. Housing names wobble, autos wobble, the dollar strengthens, emerging markets feel it. This becomes the higher for longer part 2. Growth isn't dead, but valuations start to compress. And here's the tricky part. The economy can quote unquote look okay, but the market doesn't trade okay. It trades expectations, and expectations would have to be reset in this scenario. And then scenario 3, we have the hard landing drift. And this is the tail risk. Not base case, but you respect it. Imagine we get sub 50K jobs next, or negative, Unemployment pushes above 4.7%. CPI drops faster than expected. Year over year slides under 2.3%. Inflation is solved, but because demand collapsed, that's different. Cuts would get priced aggressively, but stocks may not necessarily love it. This is when staples outperform, utilities outperform, healthcare holds up, small caps struggle, credit spreads widen, and volatility finally starts to wake up. The narrative then shifts and becomes the good news is inflation is solved, the bad news is earnings aren't. That's not a party, that's defensive positioning. So, what is the real CPI question? It's not, is inflation lower? It's, is inflation cooling because the Fed engineered a soft landing? Or because the economy is cracking? That's the difference between a controlled descent and an emergency landing. Right now, jobs say no recession yet, but CPI will tell us last mile of inflation or higher for longer, the sequel. And markets are sitting right in the middle. Dow's at 50,000, the Nasdaq's shaky, AI is getting more and more expensive, software is wounded, crypto is basically an emotional teenager, and this is a sorting market, not a euphoric one, not a collapsing one, a sorting one. And CPI decides which pile assets go into. So when CPI hits this Friday morning, don't just look at the number. Make sure you look what it means for rate cuts, earnings durability, and whether this economy is cooling or is it straight up cracking at this point. Because the difference between 0.2 and 0.4% is the difference between Goldilocks and higher for longer part 2. And nobody wants that sequel. Anyway, this is Max Pitts with Trades and Gains, as always, powered by Investor Central Club. Make sure you use that code SUPERMAX20 to get 20% off at investorcentralclub.com. Like, comment, subscribe, leave your hottest take. Are we coming in above, below? Are we going to see a bull market, a bear market? Let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Hope you're all are having a great morning, and feel free to come join us over on Free Wi-Fi Radio over on Twitch, where we will be streaming the market all day and watching some options flow. Have a great morning, everybody.